Letters to the Editor. True BVA Friends. The personal nature of the following has been deemed a letter to the editor and comes accompanied by two photos. The first of the two is a picture of a middle-aged couple. The two are standing, the man behind the wife in casual attire. The photo's background is a green and white stone wall, or perhaps a wallpaper imitation. The caption states, Chuck and Stephanie Mermiliod. The second of the two photos shows two gentlemen holding up a handmade quilt with various red, white, and blue square-shaped designs throughout. The man on the left is wearing thick eyeglasses, while the man on the right is wearing dark glasses. The latter is wearing a short-sleeved, button-down shirt containing a patch with the BVA name and logo below the left shoulder. Adorned also in a cowboy hat, he is holding and speaking into a microphone. The rustic nature of the background, coupled with the visible chairs and a portion of a bar, indicate that the photo was taken in a restaurant or club. The caption reads, Benjamin Miles displays his new quilt as Tracy Farrow describes the coveted prize. The letter reads as follows. We all have friends, and we are all a friend to someone else. Sometimes a friend will do nothing more than sit and listen to us blow off steam, while other times they'll be there when we need a hand. Sometimes we know who our friends are, and sometimes we don't. We've most likely all heard the term paying it forward, and some of us have more often been paid forward, while others have spent more of their time doing the paying. I propose two key questions. When and how does a person become a friend of BVA? Are acts of paying it forward a part of that friendship? Stephanie Mermiliod is a friend of BVA and to BVA. Before describing what that involves, I must divulge that she has worked her whole life, raised a family, retired, taken in stray pets, watched out for the neighborhood kids, kissed boo-boos, and handed out lollipops, as well as all sorts of normal things. So, how is Stephanie a friend of BVA? She is not blind nor a veteran, nor is she a military brat or spouse. Stephanie is simply a good, old, patriotic American who wants to do right and lives by a patriotic mantra. To learn more about that patriotic mantra and how it guides Stephanie, ask blinded veteran Benjamin Miles of our regional group if his little tootsies stay warm under that handmade quilt he won as a first-place prize at the Louisiana-Mississippi Regional Group 2021 banquet. Benjamin and Stephanie have never met. Perhaps one day they will. Stephanie simply has a special place in her heart to help others. She quilts as a hobby, and through her neighbor has met several blinded veterans. She wanted to do something special, specifically for blinded veterans, and donated the quilt seen in the accompanying photo. Stephanie initially created this patriotic-themed quilt with the intention of having the regional group raffle it off at the 2020 banquet. As a result of COVID-19, that didn't happen, but the thought was still there, as is the friendship. Stephanie and her husband Chuck will never be veterans, and we hope and pray they will never lose their eyesight. They are, however, forever friends of BVA, and for that we in the Louisiana-Mississippi Regional Group are eternally grateful. Tracy Farrow, National Treasurer, Biloxi, Mississippi. RG Officer urges bylaw approval. I had hoped to write this letter to the Bulletin with a tone of happiness and good prospects for the future of the Blinded Veterans Association. Alas, that is not to be, and I now write this with some frustration and bewilderment. The 76th National Convention is now behind us. As usual, various changes in bylaws are proposed and then voted on. One proposed bylaw change would have allowed veterans with visual impairment but not declared legally blind to join BVA. Sadly, the proposal was defeated by less than 1%, a total vote count of some 60 votes or so. It is my understanding that this proposed change of bylaws has been proposed in the past. Now, however, the circumstances are very different than in the past, and we face a situation that, unless we act, the actual existence of the organization could be in jeopardy. BVA was organized just prior to the end of World War II by veterans who were blinded during that conflict. Bear in mind that at the end of the war, the U.S. had millions in uniform, and BVA enjoyed a rush of veterans wanting to join. To these numbers were later added the Korean War veterans, the Vietnam veterans, those from the First Gulf War, and, most recently, the veterans from Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan, and Operation Iraqi Freedom. Even with all of those additions, the size of our armed forces has never come close to the number from World War II. As a result, the membership roll was extensive and BVA prospered. The last time I checked, the World War II veterans were dying at a rate of some 360 per day. That comes to 131,400 per year. World War II ended 76 years ago. You can figure it from there. The number of blinded veterans has dropped and is dropping proportionately. What does this mean for BVA? None of the answers bodes well for the future. First, we are losing members rather fast, from a high of near 12,000 at one point to now less than 6,000. The number of visually impaired veterans from conflicts after Korea are only a fraction of what we had from World War II and the Korean War, so the recruitment base is much, much smaller. I don't have any figures of the number of new members annually, but if they are something like what we have experienced in my group, it is not very much, and I'm sure it is below the number we lose every year. Where do we find enough new members to offset the annual loss or increase our member count? Where are these prospects? At what level of membership do donors and Congress decide we are small potatoes and ignore us? Where do the funds come from? In past years, and sadly, also this year, a number of old-line veteran members of BVA have campaigned against allowing visually impaired veterans not yet legally blind to become members of the association. These members are adamant that these visually impaired be excluded from BVA. While I have no objection to their right to hold that point of view, I do question why they insist on their viewpoint. Consider, BVA was organized to help blinded veterans. The decision at that time was to require the veteran to be legally blind. Why did they not require the veteran to be totally blind? Why is this arbitrary point of legal blindness so important, so crucial? The rules could have been very easily adopted in the beginning to include any veterans with a vision problem. Consider, the mission statement of BVA is to assist veterans with blindness. Why is it so important not to assist a veteran who has not yet reached legal blindness, but who will, no doubt, reach the point sometime in the future? Isn't it our goal to help the visually impaired? Why is the degree or point of impairment such an obstruction? Finally, consider, if we do not take some serious action to build up the member body, the days of this organization are numbered. Will the last anti-low vision veteran be the one to please turn out the lights before leaving? The time for serious deliberation over the future of BVA is now, not tomorrow, next week, or next year. It is now. The last question I ask those anti-low vision fellow members is this: are you concerned about the future of BVA, or are you fixated on a dream of exclusivity? As our numbers continue to drop at an alarming rate, that exclusivity will soon be at hand. The future of the Blinded Veterans Association should not end with the demise of any member or members. Our goal should be for BVA to always be there for the visually impaired veteran whose quality of life the organization can improve and enhance. Charles Nemeth, Regional Group Secretary, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Team River Runner and Memorial Day Weekend 2021. An accompanying photo taken on a dock just outside a body of water also reveals a group of 9 men, 2 women, and 2 guide dogs. The group includes blinded veterans and members of a river rafting staff. Only 2 of the men are holding white canes in the photo. Highlights of the photo include one of the women seated on the ground next to a guide dog, and one of the men waving as he stands atop the others on a higher wooden platform. There is no photo caption. The letter reads, I am a newer member of BVA and BVA's Operation Peer Support Initiative. I would like to tell as many as possible all about how amazing Team River Runner, TRR, is. I was fortunate enough to get invited on a trip at the end of May, and it was well worth it. One of the best parts I like about this organization is the true generosity that is shared. 3 other blinded veterans and I were shuttled by volunteers and the founders of the organization. This kind of attention is truly hard to find these days, and that was just the beginning. We met the first night in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and had an amazing welcome from the community. On our first day, we were able to get out and fellowship with all of the participants of the annual Team River Runner Golf Tournament. The next 2 days were spent on the water in true TRR style. We were first welcomed to the new Whitewater Complex in Oklahoma City and made a couple of runs on the rafts. In the evening, the pumps were shut down so that we could introduce Oklahoma and all its veterans to kayak football. There was some solid instruction, then the games were on. The water play continued the next day as we worked on technique and played some more games of kayak football. All in all, activities of the weekend were fun, but the best takeaways for me from these activities are the memories made and the friendships created. During every event I have attended with TRR, I feel normal again. I encourage you all to check out your local TRR chapter if you are looking for an amazing organization. Michael Murphy, Rocky Mountain Regional Group, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Convention format praised. A professional photograph of the author of the following letter and poem is included here. The subject of the photo is formally dressed in a dark suit with a matching bow tie and coat pocket handkerchief and a slightly off-white background. The caption reads, Warner L. Murray, New York Regional Group. The letter and poem are expressed as follows. A wonderful BVA 76th National Convention commenced August 16, 2021. What a joy to have available this technology to meet present and future challenges. The format of this convention was consistent with BVA's true mission, which includes equipping blinded veterans with the knowledge and skills for greater independence in order to meet the challenges of this world. Our opening day was a routine occasion between BVA National Headquarters and the membership. The Zoom platform was working properly, a great inspiration to the moderators. As the week progressed, the program's agenda and dialogue were well prepared and presented with the greatest of professionalism by the host and all parties involved. Our Executive Director, Mr. Donald D. Overton, Jr., inspired the membership with his arousing voice of confidence that the Blinded Veterans Association is navigating on course to brighter days. The business sessions of the convention were well planned, and the objectives were achieved. The election of national officers and voting on proposed amendments to the bylaws had the familiar feeling of our weekly conference calls. The governmental departments, independent agencies, and other guest speakers were a wealth of knowledge expressed with compassion and care. I truly felt that the warmth in their delivery was directed at me as I needed that information and encouragement. I hope our gratitude is reflected in the words written here. We truly appreciate the tireless efforts of Mr. Stuart Nelson and staff in prior weeks of training to the membership so that this virtual platform could be launched. We give thanks to all executives, coordinators, representatives, and members for a successful BVA 76th convention. Warner L. Murray, New York Regional Group, New York, New York. A Universal Communication by Warner L. Murray. Our 76th convention, what a start. A virtual platform of many parts. BVA headquarters welcomed this trend. Universal communication, tap tap, you're in. Our executive director reassured the creed, no blinded veteran ever left in need. Directors, coordinators, executives, staff, all are very astute in their respective craft. The BVA membership march with pride to self-reliance with a confident stride. This association has much more to do, cherish and honor red, white, and blue.